Hi, Kelly. Welcome. I am so pleased to have this conversation with you today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And today I would love to discuss your experience, but also so we can really go deeper in terms of some of the topics that I know we're going to be discussing today. So to get us started, tell us a little bit about, so you and I worked together doing your functional DNA testing. So let's begin
Right.
by you telling our listeners what were like your goals? Like what was the sort of main reason or reasons that you decided to even explore your DNA?
Well, my main reason for venturing into this was to look at how I can eliminate the pain that I was feeling in my hips and my leg and my knee. It got so bad that I was having difficulty walking on a regular daily basis. So I was, told it was inflammation, but I honestly did not know the best way to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, figure out how I can eliminate this. And so that was one of my main considerations. And then the other was, of course, I wanted to be able to support my family without, having any physical limitations. So that's really
Yeah.
what motivated me.
Yes, thank you. That's wonderful. And I know you know this, but I will just share for the listeners as well that because chronic pain has been, I'll say, my biggest teacher in my life as well. It is something I deeply resonated with, and also one of the main reasons why I, do the work that I do. So, I thought it was a beautiful synergy for us working from that perspective, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so from, let's just say, so we began the walk and you learned all about your DNA. How was that experience? Like, were some of the things that we were able to uncover surprising to you? They made sense? Like, give me a little bit of that.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, it's a very easy process to do. It is very safe, and I felt that, my results were very confidential.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were done, when the report was given and we met to go over the results, I was very happy about it because it provided really not just one part of you, it's really a whole picture of yourself.
Yeah.
And so that I think that really makes a difference. You learn more about yourself than really you ever imagined you would.
Yes.
Um, so I think that has been very beneficial. And it's also made me aware that I need to be mindful of what works best for me. So I
Yes.
think that process helped me eliminate a lot of the trial and error
Mm-hmm.
that I would have to probably have gone through and suffered, much longer.
Yeah.
And it made me, you know, focus on what I needed to do. And miraculously, I immediately, felt the results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And I think something that I love about this type of testing is as we start to uncover, especially when we go into the areas more of mood and behavior that inform our personality, how we make choices, how we feel stressed, right? And I remember we had this experience together. There's like, wow, my DNA can tell this, right? Like,
Right,
it's like
right.
so
Yes, it's
incredible.
amazing. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're taking a peek behind a curtain, what's actually going
That's
on.
right.
Right, but
Yes.
it's true. And the one
Yeah.
aspect I'm going to bring it briefly here because it's so important for chronic pain management is this idea of stress, right? And how the
Yeah.
body takes on stress, experiences stress. And myself, as an example, I would say, I'm quite like vulnerable, I would say, to, my body goes really all in, like they're very high or very low. So I have so much, I would say, ups and downs, cortisol, and a difficult time recovering from stress, which you see in chronic pain, right? So it's just like so interesting to see how does it look like to you, and then we can do something about it, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And I will like a couple of things I wanted to chat with you about to even give our listeners an idea of what is possible for them, right? And also we can go deeper in the whole idea how to look at chronic pain from various angles. But what would you say were some of the things that have changed since you learned about your DNA?
Well, definitely, I had no idea that what I was presently eating at the time was actually not very good for me. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it does help you really pay attention to the type of food you were eating. I
Yes.
mean, I was eating very, I thought, healthy, but it
Yes.
turned out that even though I was probably eating some healthy foods, they weren't right for my DNA or my body. So
Yeah.
that is really eye-opening, honestly. That has really changed my life. And so I am aware more about the type of vegetables I eat.
Mm-hmm.
And that we found out that I'm a meat eater. So,
Mm-hmm.
that really surprised me too. So,
Yes.
that part of it was really eye-opening. And then I think the other part of it was the personality type, that I
Yeah.
have to be aware of in terms of processing stress and kind of being more, aware, I guess you could say, of what would stress me. And what surprisingly I found out was, the type of exercise that is good for me,
Yes.
which is,
Yes.
I think it's interesting, right? You never really think about
Yeah.
what kind of exercise would work best for you, except, whether you like it or not. But it turns out,
Mm-hmm.
that is also a factor in, your health.
Exactly. And when we're looking at, stress and inflammation, it is really important to look at all areas, right? So a lot of times we think of inflammation, we think more the physical side, which definitely, the improper types of fitness for your body needs will be a big stressor, no doubt. And that's what we talked about, right? But also stressors in the hidden sense, right? That like for example, like you said, that some healthy foods are not necessarily healthy for you, right? And that's the same
Right,
for me, but different foods. So
right.
that's why it's so difficult when we're just like generally talking about diet. We can only
Yes,
get so far, right? Because it's not personalized to what you need.
yes, yes,
Um,
exactly.
Right. So let's talk about the chronic pain in particular, right? That you saw like very great results. And I think the way I like to think of health of any kind is like this spiral. And that has been definitely the last 2 decades of my experience with chronic pain. And it's hip, but also neck for me and shoulders. It's very much a spiral, right? And it's kind of like we're always making progress. Inflammation has been lower, but sometimes we kind of go around that spiral again and have another layer of
Mhm,
appreciation for what the
mhm.
chronic pain is here to tell us and teach
Yeah.
us, right? So tell
Right,
me
yes,
your journey
yeah.
from before DNA, when you saw initial results, and then a little bit of what you shared with me before we recorded.
Yes, well, before I took the DNA, I had difficulty going downstairs, even coming upstairs, and just walking, uh, to and from the car, even really.
Yeah.
But since we went through the process of, the data analysis that you were so great to really identify the areas that would work for me. I mean, in terms of interpreting the results, I would never really have gotten to understand it to that degree. So
Hmm.
what we could look at was my DNA and then the interpretation of what would work for me in terms of diet and exercise and mental health. And then um, after taking some time to apply it, the 2 weeks, making the diet changes and exercise, I mean, I was shocked.
I love it.
I know, I was astonished. I could easily walk down, the stairs, and I had so much more energy. I think you had
Hmm.
mentioned that would happen.
Yeah.
Just really the reduction of pain was the best thing.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting, and we had talked about this, that I realized that even though I had made those changes, I
Hmm.
wasn't paying attention to, all the areas in my life. And so, I kind of went back into my work routine, and things, started to get more stressful for me. And then all of a sudden I started feeling the pain again. So
Hmm.
it's not a kind of a one-time fix. It's really a
Yes.
process that, like you said, the spiral that you have to, remind yourself of what
Hmm.
your DNA is saying, and what changes uh, work best for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll mention here something that we talked in our sessions, a book, right? The Dr. Johnny Sarna book. Even though it's called Healing Back Pain, it's not just about back pain. And that was the book that changed my life as chronic pain is concerned. That I was in tears when I first read it because it described the diagnosis of fibromyalgia I had, the specific type of spinal fusion surgery I had, and where pain was in my body, right? So I was like shocked when I read that book many years ago. But something that was really, and I even recommended that book to you, right? That
Yes,
one of
yes.
the things it talks about is when we are in situations of too much stress or prolonged, very difficult stressors, that it's almost
Mhm.
like, especially if you've been in that stressor in your life for a while, it's almost like immediately when it comes back, we go to full on stress levels.
Yes,
It's almost like if we can't, and most of us cannot, like just quickly digest the emotions and neutralize it, our
right.
muscles contract to take
Mm,
on some of the brunt of that emotional toll, right?
mm,
So
mm,
it is a
mm,
physical reaction from an emotional experience, right?
mm,
And I think
mhm,
that's important. I really see that as the next layer
mhm,
for you, a deepening that relationship with your body, right? So
mhm,
for me, like I went from having 6 migraines per week. I was
mm,
very like unable to live my life and on with fibromyalgia diagnosis, chronic fatigue. It was a very hard time for me. And now, all these years later, besides always manage inflammation from dietary choices and so on, I also now use the physical pain as feedback. And I would recommend the same to you that,
mm,
as the
mhm,
hip talks to you, we
mhm.
listen, right? It's like, okay, what is it? What is it this time? What do you need to think about? And almost like look at it as a partnership, right?
Yeah.
That the pain is informing, and ever so gently, I talk to my body and say, what if we find out a different method of communication that's not pain, pain related? What if we learn a new language together, and looking for
Uh-huh.
ways to deepen
Yeah.
that, right?
Oh, I just so love the way you put that. I mean, it really is a partnership with yourself, and
Yeah.
I think it's because it's not a one size fits all. It's really about what your body is telling you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would, dare to say that your hip is like my neck, for example. Those are like there is, I think it's from the movie of some kind, but it says that, our wounds is where the light comes through. And it's almost like that is I would say the piece of my body that gets the quickest response because maybe the most delicate, So it's
Mhm.
almost like for you, similar, like the hip is probably like it talks to you quickly as
Yes,
feedback to guide you, right? So, like,
yes,
really looking at it with gratitude, even though we don't want the pain,
yes.
and
Uh-huh.
continue to deepen that relationship, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll put the book as well in the show notes for anybody listening. If you have chronic pain as well, it's a wonderful read or listen. It's also very good for that. Yes. And Kelly, for someone that it's either looking to also work and understand their bodies better to manage chronic pain, or someone looking to release excess weight, what is some advice you could give someone if they're not even sure if DNA results can actually give them what they want? Like, what would you tell that person?
Well, I really think that, as I said, I felt like I was venturing into the unknown, but
Yes.
um, I really feel that I was in good hands and that, I kind of just trusted the process, in this sense, because I felt that my DNA was handled in a very safe and secure manner, and
Mhm.
that, the interpretation I received was so spot on. I mean, it's really an interesting process because you're not just dealing with a condition, you're really dealing with your own personal DNA.
Yes.
So I think that's really the difference here, that you really are just looking at your own blueprint
Yeah,
kind of problem solving on based on yourself. So um I think it's worth it, and it's a really an investment in yourself and your whole self. So I really think that it's one of the best things I ever did, for myself.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful to hear. And I joke about this often, like with my husband. Sometimes, depending on a situation that I want to get out of, I just basically tell him it's in my DNA. That's why I can't do that. It's in my DNA. He just laughs, right? He's like, I don't think that is in your DNA. Oh no, there's some other collateral benefits as well.
Yes.
Depending on, yes. Oh, thank you so much, Kelly, for coming in here today and talking to me about this. And really, I love sharing the experiences so that we can give the true reality, right, behind it, so other people can also hear and see. And I know for chronic pain myself, like it took me a good 15 years looking for solutions with very little given to me for proactive measures as well as reverting the problem. It was usually more suppressing symptoms, right? So
Yes.
it's something I'm very passionate about, and I feel there's a lot we can do to at least clean the foundation, clean the diet, understand our lifestyle choices better, and then all we have to deal with is pollution and stressors, right? But at least you can
Right.
control as much as
Yes.
possible that's within our control, right? So thank you so much. I'm very
Thank
grateful for your
you.
time.
Oh, thank you.